You're listening to the ProgAxia podcast.
Hi, it's Andy Phillips and welcome to the ProgAxia podcast. And we've got Ryan Stevenson here. Hi, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm good, yeah. How are you?
I'm really, really good, mate. Really, really good. Looking forward to this because chatting to you beforehand, you know, I've said I love the album. And this is your first outing as Zopp.
Yeah.
And I want to know, first off, Zopp, what the hell is Zopp?
The name, it's...
The name.
The name, yeah. Well, it comes from a record store called Zopp, and they're based in Nottingham. I think they've got a few chains across the country. And,
Right.
Around 10 years ago, I used to frequent Zopp all the time. I used to buy loads of Zappa records and Porcupine Tree and loads of stuff. And I think it was the summer of 2010, I just got into a lot of Zappa. So I combined the Z from Zappa and Zopp to make Zopp. And then I started like a SoundCloud page and uploaded some demos. And and then I just shared these demos with people online. And then it went quiet for a few years. I didn't really work on it for a while. I joined some bands, and then I reapproached it in 2017. And advertised for a drummer online, got Andrea, and then we started work on the album, I think late 2017, and then it was out in April 2020. So
it was actually put onto the my radio show, which is the best progressive rock of 2020.
All right.
And it takes sort of a lot to get into a show because I've only got 2 hours, 2 hours to do a show. So you got to sort of pick them wisely. But a friend of mine introduced me to you. I just got a text from because, as you probably realise, I mean, I've sort of got contacts in lots of different places, and we're always talking about albums that are coming out, different bits of music, and some of them are old albums, some of them are new, and things like that. And I just got this message, have you heard this band Zopp? I went, never heard of them. Yeah. Never heard anything from them. So he sent me over a Spotify link.
Right.
And I listened to it. And I remember putting the first track on, and my initial impression, and I hope this is cool for you, but my initial impression was Canterbury Scene. It's like it felt like a lost album from the Canterbury Scene years, but it has a bit of a more contemporary vibe to it. Is that what you was going for? I mean, is Canterbury a sort of big influence for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? You hear the fuzz organ and the fuzz bass and maybe some melodic similarities with the likes of Egg and National Health and Hatfield and the North and Soft Machine too.
Yeah.
Those bands were the main inspiration behind it. But yeah, I combined it with, I suppose, my own approach. I'm into all sorts of different music, ambient music, classical, modern classical music. So I think it eventually morphed into something more eclectic over time. I mean, originally it started out as a Zappa pastiche.
Right.
And that, of course, that's where the Z comes from. And I was into stuff like Hot Rats, Uncle Meat, and the original Zopp material was a bit of a pastiche, basically. And then I think when I reapproached the music in 2017, I updated the sound a bit more and added the fuzz organ and then some ambient elements. Of course, the reviews have been overwhelmingly positive with this album, which is great for me. And but when you're looking online for some of these reviews, some of them are quite frustrating. Some of the negative ones, the reputation, where they say, it's a bit of a pastiche, this, and this type of music doesn't need to be made in 2020, 2021. But those people don't really understand the record. Like you said, there are ambient elements in there. Even before the light, there's like a blast beat, like metal music, which again is something completely different to the traditional Canterbury Scene.
Yeah.
So I think people that really understand the record can hear all the different elements in it. It's not just hero worshipping. There's something I think that's quite unique with the record. So yeah, it's a combination of all my influences, basically.
Yeah, and it really comes across as that as well, because as I say, I mean, when I first put it on, with most of these things, you get a new album, you start having a listen to it, and it normally takes you a little while to get into these things. You know, the people have different attitudes to what they're doing musically. But as soon as I started listening to it, I just sort of felt comfortable. But there were some surprises along the way. You know, there was some stuff I didn't expect, to be honest. You know, which was all pleasant. It was all good.
Yeah.
So I mean, I really got into it. But you can hear the, you know, you mentioned bands like Egg and stuff like that, which I love, but I don't listen to massively often. You know, I mean, Egg are one of those bands for me that has been big in different parts of my life.
Mm.
But it sort of reminded me a little bit of those sort of things, you know. And you talk about Hatfield and North and all those sort of things, and it has got that vibe. And what I loved about it more than anything else was it was sort of pointing towards that. But this is a fresh new album. It's got, you know, a different sort of direction from those bands, which I'm really glad about. But I just loved the sort of the ambience of it all. So, and you're using original instruments, aren't you? Sort of using them as analog instruments.
Yeah, there are some. I used an organ at Andy Tillison's place, and I mean, I used some digital organs. I got a Korg CX-3 organ, so I used that a lot on the album. I used this Nord here, this Nord keyboard, for some of it, especially some of the fuzz organ sounds,
Yeah.
and a few analog synthesizers, Hohner Pianet I used, and yeah, I mean, I list all the instruments on the album, so it's all sorts of different things. But
Yeah, did I see Mellotron as well?
yeah, I got a Mellotron just over here behind me. It's a digital one, but it's made by Marcus Resch in Sweden.
Right.
I met him a couple of times when I went to Sweden, and had a demo on one. And it's a great instrument. It's sampled from the original library tapes from
Right.
Mark II, Chamberlin, all the old instruments. So I used that on the album. And yeah, I just wanted to get that authentic analog sound, and of course that's why I got Andy Tillison on board too, to try and help with some of the Leslie processing on tracks like Salanra, and what else did I process with a Leslie? I can't remember, but yeah, he was helpful in that respect. You know, he's into his analog gear and all.
Yeah, yeah. How did Andy get involved? Andy Tillison get involved?
Well, I finished most of the album in early 2019, and I wasn't really confident with the final prod. I was confident with the songs, but the mixing was a bit deficient. I thought I wasn't, you know, it's the first major project I've worked on. So I just wanted to find an experienced musician that mixed his own music, and I wanted to learn off a professional too.
Yeah.
So the original plan, again, I went to Sweden, and I won't mention the individual, but I flew to Sweden and I had a meeting with the guy in a studio there, and it went all right, but this person lost interest in the project. I don't know. He didn't really communicate that well over emails, and so I thought, well, let's go closer to home, and let's find somebody who, again, like I said, mixes their own music, writes their own music, and understands the Canterbury Scene influence of this album. And I think Andy was the perfect candidate for this job. And yeah, I basically sent him an email in I think June 2019, and he responded instantly, very enthusiastically about the music. Like, this is amazing. I'd love to work on this. And then we worked together for a few months from June 2019 up until January 2020. And I would just go to drive up to Yorkshire, stay for like a couple of nights, work on the album, then drive back to Nottingham. And it's like just a couple of times a month maybe until we finished the album. So yeah, I just basically sent him an email, and we got working on the album instantly.
You tell me about the because it's you and a drummer basically.
Yeah.
So tell me about Andrea.
Right. Well, Andrea, he's a professional musician. He's been playing drums for like 30 odd years, and he plays in a band called Leviathan.
Yeah.
So they're an Italian progressive rock band, maybe like neo-prog sounding. And yeah, he lives in Nottingham. He's a lecturer here in Nottingham. He's lived here for 3 or 4 years, I think. And like I said, I sent an email, an advert round for a drummer. And this was in 2017, and I've been working with him since. But he's very professional. You know, I write all the drums for the music. I demo it down in like a drum plugin program that I've got in my recording software, Pro Tools. So I write all the drums, but the rehearsal stage is really important for Zopp because, you know, we play the music on a PA, and then I play the bass guitar and he plays the drums along to it. But there are moments where, you know, he improvises and tries different things with the rhythms, which you can't really perfect in a drum machine. So what I do, I record most of the music and then I give it to Andrea, and then we just play around in the rehearsal room, and then we start to record the progress of you know, working on the album. So we've started rehearsing only recently because of this COVID stuff, and so we just got back in the rehearsal room, and we're going through the second album at the moment. And like I said, it's a crucial stage in this writing and recording process. But yeah, he's a professional musician, Andrea, and he's got a very good work ethic. So he goes home, does the homework, and notates everything. Because I can't read music, so he just notates all the drums and then learns it, and then we just play around from there. So yeah, he's a very reliable musician and a crucial part of Zopp, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I really liked about it was I've already spoken a little bit about this sort of organic feel, you know, using some of the older keyboards and things like that, which is, I guess, a sort of homage a little bit to the Canterbury Scene, because the Canterbury Scene had a very distinctive type of sound and a distinctive way of creating tracks to sort of draw you in.
Yeah.
So the one thing I really liked about it was the sound of the drums really does complement it. It's not overpowering, because a lot of times nowadays you get massive bass drum sounds and things like that, which I really just don't like that much. You know, I like the sort of, you know, the old organic live drum sound, and it just complemented it so well.
Yeah, it was a last second decision on the mix to make the drums a bit louder, and I think a lot of the drum sounds in the 70s are quite quiet, generally speaking. And it was something that Andrea noticed. He's like, because of course every musician in a band always thinks their parts are too quiet. Like the bassist, you know, it needs to be more bass, or there needs to be more guitar here, it needs to be louder. And I was like that with Andrea. He said, nah, you know, get the drums high. I was like, no, it's okay. But he was right. And I like that nice, loud, live sound. And a couple of people have commented on that the drum sound, or the whole record, sounds like a live performance. But it's not, you know, because I recorded everything bit by bit, incrementally, and then the drums were done last, pretty much. And then, like I said, I just reproduced the album over a few months. So it's a good compliment that it sounds live, when in actual fact it's not live. It's not a live recording.
Yeah, I don't think people sort of get that whole recording process. They, you know, recording music is not easy. I mean, technically nowadays we've got, you know, we can do a lot of stuff on computers, and we can edit pretty much anything we want to and stuff like that. But getting a vibe, getting a sound, as you say, it sounds like a live band playing.
Yeah, it does.
Which is astonishing, really. You know, because I hear loads and loads of stuff, as I said, you know, and there's a lot of it which is, you know, all majorly click tracked, all majorly, you know, tight, and it's all very good, but it doesn't have that vibe, you know.
Well, I'm prone to that. You know, I'm prone to quantizing things and perfecting takes, and it's just slightly out, so I've got to nudge it. And I've got to snap out of that way of thinking, because I like records that have imperfections,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
if they're not
definitely.
mixing imperfections, like something's too quiet. And there are imperfections on this first Zopp record, definitely. And that's because,
Oh, mate, there's always going to be, I mean,
yeah,
if anybody's ever, sat down, written, recorded, and mixed an album or a track of any description, I mean, you talk about sort of people in the studio sort of thinking their stuff's too quiet. We have exactly the same sort of thing, and there's 5 of us.
yeah,
So you can imagine the sort of arguments where, can you just put the guitars up a little bit? Can you just
yeah,
put the bass up a little bit? By the time you finish, everything's too loud. So you've got to take everything down again.
that's right. I
Um,
mean,
but yeah, it's just trying to get that balance. And you always going to hear as a musician where you could do better there, but
yeah,
no one else knows. No one else cares. All they do is they put the headphones on. Just like I did with the Zopp album. The way I listen to things, stick headphones on, give yourself a glass of wine, have a listen to an album. If I get past the first 2 tracks, then that's a really good sign. I mean, when I listen to your one, I put my headphones on, have a listen to see what this is like. And as soon as I got to the second track, you know, which is the one I put on the actual album. Sorry, put on the show. I was hooked. I was straight in. I loved it. I listened to the whole album all the way through, which is always a bloody good sign, especially on
yeah.
a brand new album.
It's a good journey, isn't it? 45 minutes is about right for this type of music. And
Yeah,
it's very intense. I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the listener's perspective, first time listener. And I can imagine it's very intense, because there's a lot happening in the music, and it's not just the melodies and harmonies. I think it's just the intensity of the layers involved. And this is again partly why I got Andy involved, because I have so many ideas at the same time, like keyboard harmony and some melody here and a counter melody and all these things, that it becomes, when it comes to the final mix, it's unmanageable. It's just not possible to have all this stuff happening simultaneously. So Andy was very important in the process, because he allowed me to understand what's the main focus in each section. Is it the keyboard solo? Is it the guitar here? And I had to do a lot of removing layers and just simplifying it sometimes. But there's one exception, the Noble Shirker on the album, where it just completely self-indulgent. You've got synthesizers going, you've got guitar solos, and we spent a long time on the mix getting it right, so there's a nice balance. So yeah, it's an intense listen, definitely.
so there's some great tracks on there. I mean, I mentioned the second track, Before the Light. As soon as that comes in, I mean, the sound of that, to me, like, it hit me in the face as Canterbury. What I loved about the Canterbury Scene, it sort of hit me in the face straight away, which sort of hooked me. But V is a fantastic track, absolutely fantastic track.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, there's a few really good, outstanding tracks on there that I think if anybody's listening to this, watching this on YouTube and stuff, get the album. Definitely get the album. If you're if you've got any love of the Canterbury Scene, get this album, because it really sort of takes it to somewhere else as well, which I think is brilliant. I mean, I don't think there's many bands out there at the moment that have got that sort of background, but can produce something which just hooks you straight away.
Yeah, there's a lot of symphonic elements to us. But a track like V, there's quite a bit of Mellotron in the middle.
Yeah,
and that comes from my love of people like bands like Anecdoten, Swedish band, how they mix over and like have loads of overdubs of Mellotrons, and it's a really nice symphonic sound. So it's a mixture, isn't it, of everything, especially in that track, and especially the Hohner Pianet. Again, it's a classic Canterbury sound with the likes of Egg and Soft Machine, and so there's definitely many layers to it.
I mean, so basically, you there's 2 of you at the moment. Are you looking to put a band together to take this live?
Yeah, I mean, that's something in the future, but it depends on all this COVID stuff. But that's definitely something that I'd like to pursue in the future. I mean, I don't know what I would play, whether it be keyboards or bass or guitar, but Yeah, I'd love to do it, but it depends on Andrea's availability and so many different factors. But if the opportunity arises, then definitely I'll take it.
What about the new album? How far are you into that now?
Well, I think I've got the skeleton of the record, so I've pretty much written it, but there's a lot of mixing left. We're hoping to record drums in 10 weeks' time, and we're just, like I said, rehearsing at the moment. And yeah, there's a large body of work. I've got about an hour and 20 minutes worth of music, and I'm not a big fan of long albums. Again, I think this type of music is best when it's say 45, 50 minutes max. So I'm trying to figure out the sequence of the record, and what to include on Zopp 2 and potentially another record before or after that. I don't know. But in terms of the direction of the second record, I think it's a step up in all directions. I think the musicianship is better on this next one. I've spent a lot of time figuring out chords on the piano and perfecting solos. There's more improvisation.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, because the first album, everything's very short. The tracks are shorter, and there isn't much room for improvisation. So this time I've expanded things. I mean, it's still very structured music, but I thought I would have more keyboard solos and stuff like that. What else? I mean, there's the vocals on the next one too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's a new element. And yeah, I mean, I've tried different things, unusual vocal harmonies. I've been listening to a bit of Yes, and I got into them the last couple of years even. And yeah, I got into Yes, and that's influenced the way I've tried vocal harmonies. And what else? Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of everything. It's more avant-garde, it's more accessible, and it's more intense too. So I'm looking forward to, maybe by the end of the year it'll be out, I don't know, but 10 weeks time we record the drums, so let's hope I make progress after that.
And you're going to go through this, are you going to get Andy involved in that as well?
I don't know yet. I'm thinking about mixing it myself this time, because it's just a matter of time, basically. Because the thing is, with the first album, it was like mixing it from scratch. So I sent everything to Andy, and then we start from scratch again. So it was a long time sort of rebuilding the album up. So this time I've just sort of been mixing on the go, and I learned a lot from working with Andy in terms of mixing. Just a few basic things. So I think I'm more confident this time to do most of it myself, but there's more pressure because of that. There's more pressure on me to perfect the album. But yeah, I like to take my time, and I like to create a good album. I'm trying to raise the bar all the time, and that's just the way I like working. If the music's not if it's not really if I'm not feeling it properly, then I really have to keep on working until it feels right.
So, and also, I guess, because now you've got Andreas involved, and part of that, you can start expanding into those more instrumental moments, those improvisations and things like that. Sort of probably make it easier to do that as well.
Yeah, and we've got a few days booked, maybe 4 or 5 days to record the drums, so we can take our time. And the first album, it was just a weekend. We recorded the drums on set up on a Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday was the main recording session. But this time we have about 4 or 5 days. So that means, like you said, we can try different things, new takes, expand sections maybe. And yeah, it's just less pressure, isn't it, when you have more time to record?
It is. And listen, thanks for joining us today. It's been absolutely fantastic. I really, really look forward to the new album. But as I say, if anybody's out there that digs the Canterbury scene and but wants to hear something a little bit different, a little bit pushing the barrier a little bit, then definitely listen to the Zopp album. We're going to put links in below the video on YouTube and also onto the podcast as well. So we'll have to catch up again, Ryan, when you're maybe just about to release the new one.
Yeah, sure.
So we can probably steal a listen prior
Yeah,
to it coming out and things like that. That'd be fantastic.
that's right. Yeah, I'll keep you updated.
No, definitely. Listen, mate, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. Thanks very much.
Okay, cheers. Bye.